You're about to meet Pete Proimos. For 35 years, Pete hid a fatal secret, a lifelong battle with the genetic disease cystic fibrosis, which is remarkable because he's also a successful automotive manufacturing CEO who just sold his company to Warren Buffett's conglomerate, Berkshire Hathaway. Eventually, Pete decided to stop hiding his disease and start fighting it publicly. He founded the Filotimo Foundation to help adults with cystic fibrosis thrive, providing everything from food to fertility treatments and much more, which you'll hear about. Today, you'll hear why he finally decided to go public with his disease, what he plans to do with the rest of his life, and why his mom once threatened to break a social worker's legs. I've got a quick plug. This Sunday, December 14, Pete is hosting a national lung run to support folks with cystic fibrosis. A link is in the show notes if you want to run or support it. And briefly, let's visit the mailbag. Abby from Blue Springs, Missouri told me, your show needs theme music. And my oldest sister, Cac, from Tyler, Texas, wrote to ask, quote, have you ever listened to a podcast before? Because you need to introduce your speaker and give background before you jump in. So today I've done just that, and I added a little theme music at the front for Abby from Blue Springs, Missouri. Thanks to all of you for your feedback, even my big sister. I'm listening and learning, and now over to Pete Proimos.
The road to leadership is never a straight line. On this podcast, I'm interviewing the world's most interesting leaders about their mountaintop moments, their stumbling blocks, and everything in between. I'm Jonathan Block, and this is Stumbling Blocks, How Great Leaders Are Made.
Pete, it's a joy to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. Pete, first of all, let's just start with what has just happened, which is that you were just on ABC News in Raleigh. And tell us what happened.
Dude, my anxiety is so high these days that I'm borderline hemorrhoid at all times. And things like this really set me off. I was on the news and there's 3 cameras. So I literally am looking into one of the cameras that someone there said, like, look in this camera. This is the camera that they're going to use. And I'm looking into it. And then all of a sudden the segment starts and she's looking straight and I'm looking left. And I immediately realize what's happening, and I slowly am trying not to panic.
We're talking about the first ever lung run by the Filotimo Foundation to raise awareness for cystic fibrosis. And joining me is Pete Proimos, the founder and president of the foundation. Cystic fibrosis, as we know, very devastating situation.
You know, it's
and now you're going viral. And now you're going viral a little bit.
Yeah, because I was like an idiot. Yeah. It's viral stupidity. It's a viral stupidity. But yeah, no, I mean, I'd rather have it that way than
any publicity is good publicity, right? That's what they say. That's what they say. So Pete, you have this amazing TED Talk where you say, find a thing that breaks your heart and refuse to look away. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say something quite like that. Find a thing that breaks your heart and refuse to look away. So tell us about what does that mean? And
great question. I have personal traumas with dealing with the idea of having cystic fibrosis and what that means for me. I spent 35 years hiding it because I didn't want to feel different. I would turn away a lot whenever I would see people either in clinic, just passing people down the hallway. I would be looking down, so I would never know who had CF. I literally wanted nothing to do with it.
Even though you've had it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it was just one of those things, like I felt fake, or I felt like I shouldn't, they may want me to belong, but I refuse it. And I felt very bad about that. And so I just chose not to look it straight in the eyes. And then during COVID, I had a very hard reset. It was obviously your home, right? Everyone dealt with it, the mental health of it. A new medication was introduced that saved my life, and it fixes that broken protein in my body, so the mucus is manageable. But to be honest, it was harder on me mentally because I was feeling better and I wanted to celebrate, but there was nowhere to celebrate. So I would go online and I would go try to find people to not commiserate with, but just to have that conversation of like, me too, right?
Yeah.
And it was met with something so painful and different, where it was people saying, "This thing exists for 90% of
This
us. This
medicine exists.
medication, yeah,
Yeah.
it exists for 90% of us, but some of us can't get it." And forget that piece. There's also 10% that exists today that are constantly saying, "Well, what about me?
Mm.
I don't get the medication." We are the forgotten ones. We are the last ones left. And the last 10% almost feel like not only are they forgotten, but what, do they die off and then
Mm.
we don't procreate and pass down that genetic mutation? So the 90% thrive, but the 10% kind of are left alone.
And so for
Uh,
those 10%, does the medicine not work?
no. So
Is that
it
it
affects
doesn't?
certain genetic mutations, because that broken protein has to do with the specific genetic mutation. So it just depends on what your carrier genome sequencing is that affects the way your body works.
I
Some
see.
people, it hits them more in the lungs, some in the sinuses. Diabetes and bone density is a real big issue for them. It all is different. It's all different. I'm
Makes sense.
pancreatic sufficient. So I'm 5'10". Um, I'm right around 200 pounds. So like, it's a very, like, if I said that to someone with CF, they would say, must be nice
I
in a lot
see.
of cases, because my pancreas does work currently, but it will stop at some point, more than likely. Um, and so I was met. Let's just talk about the 90%.
Yeah.
Well, in order to qualify for disability, three real things have to happen, and I'm generalizing it for the masses. I'm
Sure.
not going to dial it in,
Sure.
but it's, you have to maintain a certain lung function below a certain threshold consistently. So every time you go in for a quarterly or monthly or you get hospitalized, your lung function, your FEV1, your flow volume, if they compare it to a regular person breathing in and then blowing out, and they show it by age and weight and gender.
Yeah.
And if you're under, let's say, 60%, you qualify. The second criteria is that you are hospitalized multiple times a year, and that hospitalization causes you to miss work or not be able to hold a job. And number three is the bugs that are in your body that are growing in your lungs, the bacteria. So I grow Pseudomonas and MRSA. They're very, very hard, and they need IV antibiotics in order to knock them down whenever they kind of flare up. If those three things are met, you get a stipend and you get Medicaid, or you get some
Mhm.
sort of health insurance afforded to you.
So you get Social Security, disability payments, and
You got it.
Medicaid, healthcare taken care of. Yeah.
You got it. Because you can't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
There's nothing you
Yeah.
can do.
Sure.
And it's real. Well, now this new drug comes out for 90% of the population, like me, and my lung function went from 70 to 90%.
Oh my goodness.
My hospitalizations are zero. And my the swab that they do a throat culture where you cough up the mucus, nothing to cough up. So you can't test it. And in some cases, it's there. Like, it'll never leave my lungs, but it's such a small amount that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that pill, Jonathan, works in days. It doesn't work in years. It's just like a boom.
Unbelievable.
You have this big purge, and that's it. It happens right after. Sorry.
So, but
Um, So you have this big purge, and then the big purge is like how to get all the mucus out of your lungs and your sinuses, and then you're like great. You're absolutely great after that. Your lungs are. And so virtually overnight, like when you go back to get qualified for disability, there's nothing to qualify for. You don't qualify.
and so
And
if you've assumed you're going to die and you
uh,
haven't gone to college, let's say, or explored a trade because you thought you were going to die at age 20, 22, 23, and suddenly you have an additional 20 or 30-year life expectancy,
40.
40-year life expectancy. So your life expectancy goes from roughly 20 to roughly 60.
Yep.
And you get 40 years that you never expected and also 40 years you never planned for.
Yep. How do you get a
Wow.
401k? How do you get
Yeah.
health insurance? We
How do
have
you get a
people that
job?
reach out to us, Jonathan. We have people that reach out to us that are married. And when two women specifically, they have reached out and said, I'm in an abusive marriage. Now that I have 40 years, I have to get out of it. I was just living through it because I got health insurance, family health insurance, and I have my kids. Now they're making these real life decisions. Where are you going to get the money for that? I mean, there's real problems out there. And although the CF Foundation, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, which is a national organization and is so incredible at research and getting us to become older people, these other things go off. And when they go off, what are you going to do? And
Back us up a little bit. Tell us just a
sure.
bit about who you are. Tell us about your family company.
So my parents are Greek immigrants. They immigrated from Greece in the 70s and moved to Gary, Indiana. And my dad has two brothers. There's three of them: Gus, Andy, and Vange. Vange being the baby, being my dad. Uh, he They basically worked in the steel mill during the day, all three of them, and then they would work at McDonald's at night to learn how to speak English and get food.
Amazing.
And they would, because my dad was younger, he was under 18. He was working at McDonald's more than the steel mill because my grandmother didn't want him to get hurt. And he learned managerial skills. He went to McDonald's University. He spent a lot of time really organizing himself and learning how to speak English at the same time. So even to this day, like he says, McDonald's University was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Amazing.
It's the only real education he ever got, any sort of certification he ever got. But that one was definitely the most important to him. And after a while, my grandmother was saying, "You guys got to get out of the steel mill. It's too hard in there. You guys are coming back. You just look older, and your children, you're fighting to work 20 hours a day at two jobs. Just pick one." And so my uncle goes, "Well, we can get a Texaco franchise for $3,000 or $4,000, whatever the cost was at that point."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he started a Texaco gas station. Uh, so we were in the Rust Belt. It was Indiana.
Yeah.
Mufflers and pipes would rust pretty often and pretty quickly. So what happened was they started deciding, okay, maybe let's go towards where the money's moving us. And that was repairs of mufflers and pipes. So they developed a system where my mom would pattern bend the pipe, the exhaust pipe.
Your mom would.
My mom would, yeah. My dad and my
Amazing.
uncles would weld the muffler to the pipe and hang them because the platforms of the cars in the 80s, in the early 80s, was, they were seeing most of the same platforms of the cars. So the pipe and the muffler pretty much fit with a little bit of finagling on most cars. So instead of a 1 hour job, they could do it in 12 minutes and they can just throw them up, weld it on, and be done with it. And then my dad would go to local muffler shops and say, "Hey, look, I'm making these things. Don't make them. Like, we have an assembly line. Let's just, like, the guys are off. They don't have anything going on right now. We just weld them. We'll sell them to you." And then in 1992, emissions.
So sorry, just one
Yeah,
quick sec. So
please.
where's your mom making them? Like in your family garage?
In
Where's
Cal-
where's
Yeah,
it
in the
happening?
Texaco. So my mom would work
Inside the
the counter.
Texaco. Okay.
Yeah, my mom would work the Texaco, the counter of the Texaco,
Mhm.
and collect money from people and charge them. And then she would go in the back and bend pipe and throw it on the side, and then the guy would pick it up and weld the muffler on. So uh, that happened for a couple of years, and one shop turned to two shops turned to five turned to 15, and they just started a real franchise program of USA Muffler and Brake, which was a shop in the state of Indiana and a couple in Illinois. And they in 1998, a new emissions law came out where onboard diagnostics, the catalytic converter, was introduced.
Yeah.
So my family said, "Well, instead of the muffler for $12, let's weld the converter on instead, the catalytic converter on instead, and get $35." So they stopped doing the mufflers and only did catalytic converters. And then they leveraged all of their shops and started a warehouse to make them. And then in 1998, they needed more space. So they bought AP Exhaust. And what it was is an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, that would sell to Ford and GM. They had an aftermarket division in Goldsboro, North Carolina in 1998. So what they would do is they made mufflers, pipes, and catalytic converters. And my dad and my uncles said, okay, well, we're already making 2 out of 3 of those things. Let's get the mufflers too. Now, this is crazy. The mufflers that I was telling you they were welding onto the pipes, it was AP mufflers. So they went from immigrants to training to welding on components of things that they bought third
Yeah.
party to warehousing those components and then selling them to then buying the manufacturer that sold the parts to the warehouses that sold them to the shops that sold them to you.
That is an
So
unbelievable like journey upstream,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Incredible.
And
Incredible.
and that was 1998. So we moved from Gary, Indiana, or Hobart, Indiana, to Goldsboro, North Carolina, in '98 when I was 15.
So pause here for a second.
Yeah,
You're about to move to North Carolina, and tell us what's happening kind of on with you on the personal side with you.
yeah. So I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was 7 months old. CF is a genetic disease that happens when 2 recessive traits from both parents come together and it causes the CF gene. And it's a broken protein in my body that affects the way salt moves in and out of cells, creating a really thick and sticky mucus, the consistency of rubber cement, and it covers all of your organs. So imagine like trying to cough that up in order to stay kind of copacetic. But as the mucus gets thicker, you get a bug or you get sick or you get pneumonia and you just can't cough up that infection. And sometimes oral antibiotics don't help. So you have to get IV antibiotics to really get to the root of the problem. And it just causes all kinds of problems.
So
So
that's what growing up is like for you. This
yeah,
disease affects every major organ
yep,
system, makes it hard to
yeah,
breathe,
yep.
gives
Very
you
hard to breathe. It's mainly
coughing
your,
fits.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's mainly your pancreas, your sinuses, and your lungs. Lungs being the biggest organ that it affects, but it also affects everything else. So medications affect your liver and your kidney function. Your pancreas affects the way you break down fats, and it will lead to at some point type 1 diabetes or CF related diabetes. Um, there's just a lot of things that happen. And when you're 5 and 6, you don't really know mortality and have a relationship with it, but you do know the heavy cough that you have, and all your friends are trying to figure out, like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Like,
Yeah.
why do you feel this way? Are you sick? What am I gonna catch?" And it's something that's not contagious, it's just a cough, a residual cough that just you just sign up for it the rest of your life. You'll have that cough.
Never goes
And
away.
yeah, and you just spend your whole life, like, trying to hide that cough because you don't wanna be different and stick out and be asked constantly what's wrong with you. And then you turn 13 and 14 and hormones get into play, and then you're like, "Well, I definitely don't want people to know now because 'cause I'm trying to date like them," and, of course, like, social circles are another thing that end up being a problem if you're sick. Um, and then, when I was 13, I was at a doctor's appointment, and they told me my life expectancy was 18, and that's the first time I had heard of it. So, all of that was happening while we were trying to move to North Carolina. So, that's the parallel.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
that's
what?
really
Just walk us through that moment for a quick second. You're 13. You're in the doctor's office, and the doctor tells you for the first time ever, you have 5 years left to live.
oh, yeah.
What's that like?
No, so the conversation was, I was at a teaching hospital, so they always had some sort of resident that was with them, the social workers specifically, just to kind of train them out and show how it is in pediatrics. In all departments. So they were in pulmonary that week, and the social worker came and he sat down and he said, "Look, what do you have planned for college? Most kids like you never make it past the age of 18." So because he said most kids like you never make it past the age of 18, I thought, that can't be true.
Yeah.
And then I looked over at my mom and she was up. Like she said, Get out of the room. We need to talk outside." And I could hear her. I mean, I could definitely hear her through the thing, just like trying to stick up for me as much as she could. But
What
the
did she
thing
say? What did you hear? What did she say?
she said, if you ever talk to him again, I will break your legs. And I never saw
That's
that guy again.
amazing.
I never saw that guy again
I bet you didn't.
until about a year ago. Until about a year ago, he reached out and he remembered that conversation.
Did he
And
really?
yeah, he remembered it a little bit differently, but he did say at the end of it, "I was scared. I never came back." So you have a very powerful mother.
I love that. The power of an advocating mom. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, man. There's a feral instinct in motherhood that cannot be replicated by any dad out there. There's
That's right.
something just very powerful about it.
So your mama jumps up, says, if you ever see my son again, I will break your legs,
Never
or talk
speak
to
to
him
him
like
again.
this.
I will break your legs. Yeah.
All right. And you are confronting this news that, hey,
Yeah, I mean, my ears were ringing. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen a 13-year-old lately, but they are tiny human beings, and to get something so bluntly,
Yeah.
it's tough. And it started there. It didn't end there. Every checkup at that point, now that I had the news, it was, hey, look, you're 15. You keep it up. Like, you keep doing your therapies. You keep doing your airway clearance. Maybe you can get to 20. Maybe you should try to go to college. I didn't know I was going to college until I was 18, until I was senior year. Like, oh yeah, maybe I should go. I feel healthy enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So it
Because
was,
you thought you were going to die.
or why spend the money? That's the biggest thing. Why? I mean, Jonathan, you tell me, factor. And at that point, like,
Incredible.
and I am
Okay.
not,
So you're,
I'm
you're
the rule. Everyone with CF deals with that. It's not just me.
so we're going to touch on that in a little bit and what you're
Rule.
doing about that now. But
Yeah.
just get us to, get us to North Carolina. You're moving to North Carolina. And
Yeah.
what happens?
98, we moved to North Carolina. It was a company that was bankrupt. It was Chapter 11, and my dad took it out of bankruptcy and took it private. The OEM manufacturer moved to France. That's where their headquarters was, and it's called Forcia. But we ran it. It was Gorlick's exhaust for a while, and then it turned into AP exhaust. We changed the name, and really, it was a fully encompassing, from the manifold of the engine back to the tailpipe. We covered everything gas and diesel combustion, up to class 6, 7, and 8 vehicles.
So walk us through like your participation in the family business. You go to college, you
Yeah.
go to law
I went
school,
to
you don't
college.
finish law school, and then your
Yep.
dad hands you a broom.
Yeah, man. Yep. He was not happy about the law school situation, which is fine, because there was no way I was doing homework the rest of my life. There's no way with law. But he said, go just grab a broom, figure it out, get in there. And I did. I started in the distribution center. I swept floors. I changed labels out. I worked my way from there into the office at a certain point, and then I just went around the office and kind of tried everything. And about 3 years into that process, a salesperson in Colorado, his wife was sick, and he needed to take some time off. So I covered for him and tried sales out, because I had been doing inside sales, so why not outside sales, right? And that just kind of turned into a bigger thing, and I loved it, and I stayed in sales for a very long time. We sold the company in 2016. No, I'm sorry, 2014. We sold the company to private equity. And then in 2019, we bought it back. And then in 2023, we sold it to Berkshire. And then I wasn't involved on the second sale day to day, but on the first one leading to the second one, I was there day to day.
Incredible.
Mhm.
So and congratulations, by the way, on the sale to Berkshire. That's a great buyer. It's a great buyer to have.
Yeah, it was cool.
So subsequent to selling, Pete, you found the thing that breaks your heart. It's
Mhm.
these people who assumed they were going to die in their 20s. They're now have life expectancy of 60s. They have 40 years they never bargained for, never expected. And you're
Here's the
refusing
part.
to look
This
away.
is the
What are you
heartbreaking
doing?
part.
Yeah. Tell us.
This is the heartbreaking part. The heartbreaking part is that medication.
Yeah.
When you're off of disability, you have to find an insurance company and pay the premium to then keep it.
Sure.
And if you don't have the stipend and you don't have a savings, there's no medication to get. You can't afford it. So that's the real heartbreak, is even though it exists, now what? Like, there's a system in place. Whether it's broken or not, I don't know the details of that, but I know
Sure.
for certain patients reaching out, this is a real broken systemic problem.
So like walk us through that cycle. What does that mean? You're on Medicaid. Medicaid pays for the pill. You take the pill,
Mhm.
you get better. You get kicked off Medicaid. You can't afford healthcare. You
You
get
have to
sick
get it.
again.
You have to apply for healthcare. You have to pay, whether it's Obamacare or going through the Blue Cross system.
Sure.
You get your healthcare and you have to pay some sort of deductible or monthly or a premium of some sort. And the medication is so expensive, you're pretty much hitting your deductible at the first month. There's people that are on health insurance and they say, look, I can afford the $80 a month, but in order for me to get the medication for the whole year, I have to max out my payment. So I need $3,000 to max out my program so I can be covered the rest of the year. So we've done that as well, because how are we with CF, how are these people supposed to survive and thrive if they can't even get their basic needs met to then propel them to get a job and live on their own and find their own place?
So many folks with CF are stuck in this terrible no-win scenario where either they stay on Medicaid and don't work, but don't take the pill,
Mhm.
or they choose to take the pill, get healthier. Getting healthier means that they lose their health insurance, and then they don't have enough money to pay for health insurance. That's sort of the pickle, right? That's the conundrum. And so
Yeah.
that is the heartbreaking part. And so what have you done about that? You say, look at the thing
So,
that breaks your heart if you just
yeah.
look away. What'd you do? We're going to stop right there for now, and we're going to hear more on the next episode about what Pete did, why he decided to go public with his cystic fibrosis diagnosis, and the legacy he wants to leave for his kids. In the meantime, check out the link to the lung run that Pete is hosting on Sunday, December 14 in the show notes. I've been incredibly inspired by Pete's challenge to find something that breaks your heart and never look away. And I hope you have been too. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe so you catch the second half of Pete's incredible story.